Greetings and salutations. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from out in the metaverse. Welcome to episode 50 of the Metaverse Nomads podcast, where we talk about all things blockchain gaming related and happenings and developments throughout the metaverse. And we've got a guest with us today. Before we get to our guest, Ray, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great in hot Florida right now. Just got here a couple of days. I'll be back home in Puerto Rico. But yeah, I'm looking forward to today's show.
Good stuff, man. Fancy Hat, how you doing?
Yeah, equally hot over here. The Australians have stolen all the rain.
It's dry in the UK. That's unusual, huh?
Darn those Australians.
Mm-hmm.
And with us is Lumina from Coexist, man. How you doing?
Hey guys, I'm good. How about yourself?
Whoop, whoop.
Doing well, man. Doing well here in the Amsterdam, Netherlands. Sun's shining.
No,
Good day.
nice. It's actually have been raining today in Istanbul for after really a few weeks. So it was sort of a refreshing today. But
Yep. Nice. So what do we got? It's still I think newsworthy. There's a few items we've got on deck here, but we've got just a little bit of news related to some of the games that we cover. But where you want to jump in, Fancy Hat? Where should we start?
We could take a look at Polomium. I think could also look at yours.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's start with Polonium. I think that's a good place to start. That's a good one.
Yeah, so this is a Web3 console that has been talked about over the last few weeks. 4K Ultra HD, scanner, ray tracing, up to 120 frames per second. And yeah, anything to do with Web3, it's getting the appropriate amount of hate. It was quite interesting when they first put this up. It had the copyrighted name for Apple's like fingerprint scanning technology. So yeah, the website got taken down for a couple of days, and that's good now.
Interesting. I like the idea of a gaming console, Web3 gaming console, because as all of us, as we know, as we're getting closer to playing Star Atlas, for instance, I'm dreading what that will look like for those of us that use a hardware wallet. How many times are you going to have to be disrupted while you have to punch in a code? And then what even happens if you can set these to 10 minutes, but that's the most. So what happens if you're playing along and something critical, an event happens where you need to approve a transaction and your hardware wallet timed out? You got to take the time to put in the code and get it back going again. So yeah, that is a challenge that has yet to the industry has yet to overcome. And so a console like this, the reason I think it is a good concept, whether or not I trust it, that's a whole other conversation. But let's say it was trustworthy and it was a hardware wallet or connected in a way that you could use your fingerprint, because that's how this device works. But in that process, you make it so that a traditional gamer doesn't have to change a lot in their behavior. They log onto their console, they get ready to play a game. When a transaction needs to occur, something can pop up in normal language that is not all crypto heavy, and they just put their thumb on top of the console device and the transaction's approved. Minimal adjustments to the behavior. So I can see things like this helping traditional gamers on board into the blockchain gaming space.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think it's the best way to go when it comes to anyone joining or who have been in the space, to just get rid of the middleman, which is anyone needing to, instead of just playing games they want to play and just to have fun, getting rid of all of the steps that you need, which, like you were just saying, with this hardware wallet and then MetaMask, hot wallets, cold wallets, and any of that stuff should be on the back end of things, just working without you needing to learn about it. And we'll get there, and we see these types of developments where if you buy the console, all this will be in-house, already stocked, right, for you to just sign up almost as easily as an email and password, where there's still that security with your words being secured in a wallet. And if you did take the time, I guess they would walk you through a little tutorial, I believe. I think that would be the best way, where there's a mini tutorial on what to do and what it means to have these keys. And then if you were to lose your console, you bought another one, you would just be able to restore using those keys, because you can't really get around not having your keys in your own possession. So that would be another hurdle, I guess, for the industry to conquer, or as individuals to maybe get creative and think of ourselves to help with this the securing of the seed phrase. So now ultimately you are protected, knowing that no matter what console you buy, no matter what hardware XYZ you get, you're ultimately in custody of all of your assets.
Do you guys, and this leads to an interesting question while we're still on this, are there a known established best practices for seed phrase? And by the way, I mean, if you have one that's unique to you and you want to keep that secret, by all means, don't give that up. But it's one of those things where I could see legacy gamers getting comfortable using this because they have to set it up once. Then using their fingerprint on the scanner, as you see that this has here. There's a quick access button for accessing your wallet, but this still leads to that issue of if you haven't properly managed your keys and to be able to restore if this device breaks, someone steals the device or whatever happens to it, like where do people go to figure out what best practices are for storing that stuff? Like what are people being taught? I mean, I have ideas for how I do it myself, but I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I could talk from my own experience where back in even 2013 when I was just learning about these things, but then really getting in financially myself in 2015, 16. The first thing I ever did was just learn about how to protect what I'm going to essentially put in, because what would be the point if you're just going to lose it all in a week? So it was very early on still, and I knew that, and the underlying technology I was getting a grasp on as far as like what it could do to change the world that we're living in today. So ultimately, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that I guess people have made already, but there's a pretty interesting one, which is like the bulletproof vest of just securing your seed phrases, having like these titanium plates. And there was another company that created a cylinder type
Yes.
I forget the name of it. I have it saved on my bookmark somewhere, probably on my other computer.
Letters that slide on that
Yep.
sleeve, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's almost like a vault lock that you can turn, and then you save your seed phrase on it. I forget what it was, but it was the most, I guess, creative one out of the bunch. But ultimately you can just get a metal or titanium or whatever metal I guess there's out there, and you could hammer in and etch it in there with a hammer and a nail or whatever utensils they give you. And then no matter if there's a fire or if there's water, or besides an earthquake and you losing it to the core of the earth and it falls through the cracks of the earth, I think that would be the only way. But as long as it won't deteriorate, you'd always have your seed phrase safe there. So that's one great way to do it. And then there's methods too that I've also learned of having people join in on having an ABC type of method with your seed phrase. There's Nifty Island is a project that's being built out. It's a game, social web, Web3, metaverse, and I talked about it here. We had the co-founder on, and there's some companies are doing this type of strategy as well, where they'll have the company having 8 words out of 24, just so you won't get wrecked as that new person coming in, and then blaming ultimately the game you first got involved with as like a pump and dump Ponzi scheme, where it's just like you won't be allowed to unless you go through and have the other words at your disposal utilized. And but yeah, you could also get someone that you care for or that won't like backstab you at some point in the future, and you can give them 8 words. You give yourself 8 words, and then there's another 8 words. And then even if your brain was taken advantage of in any way by aliens, I don't know, the most outrageous thing could possibly happen. They would only have 8 words, and the other words would be safe. So if you died, essentially, there would be a way that these other 2 individuals that you trust would be able to get a hold of your words. But yeah, there's a couple of ways, but the safety is just something we have to pay more attention to. And during these times right now, with all of these major centralized lending protocols and things are happening with your funds not being yours, if it's not your keys, not your coins type of situation, this is a great time to get involved and dive deep into just educating yourselves, because the space is going to be here. Prices are still low, so better doing that now than not.
Interesting. What are we looking at here? We're looking at...
my mic was muted. So before we move on, one of the things I like about this is that there's a leaderboard, everything compatible in like to 1. So it'd be really cool, like seeing the different guilds on the top player list and all the different names and identities.
And so that's basically a leaderboard of guilds and individuals that are using the console.
It's like an achievement system for all the games in one.
Oh,
So,
okay, I got it. Yep.
Yeah, and the way you get this is by buying a Polonium pass with their tokens, I believe, and you get like a PFP and staking rewards, launch events, going the whole 5 miles, but they're still in like the idea phase of the console. So, yeah.
So does anyone know who's backing them? What they're behind? Because that's one of the things I mentioned before the show as we were talking about this, is that trust is a big issue here when someone's stepping up to kind of be the people's champion and say, "Look, we're going to help you secure your wallet." It's like, but are you? And why should I trust you? I mean, obviously, Ledger has been around to a point where they've earned trust as some of the other hardware and software wallet companies. But yeah, I'm just curious if they have any connections, or we know who they're partnered with and all that sort of thing.
So yeah, I haven't seen any big names like that. That would be reassuring, just seeing all like the usual ones like Anna Monica brands and yeah. So there's also another story I have, and basically this is about Reddit doing NFTs but refusing to call them NFTs. If you get the Control F, the search function out, and type in NFT, there's 0. But if you type in collectibles, 21 mentions. So yeah, it looks like they're trying to like pivot away from that type of identity while still using like the core blockchain technology.
So it's on chain, functions like an NFT. They're just avoiding the language because they've seen the backlash that other traditional like Ubisoft and others, when they're trying to the backlash they got when they tried to introduce NFTs to their communities. Is that kind of your take?
Pretty much, and I guess it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I know like cryptocurrency is quite active in Reddit. They have moons and that type of thing, so could be a market for it.
No.
It makes me wonder. So you've got social networks, you've got all these community-based platforms, and we know avatars are a big thing. So the question becomes, are they trying to stay relevant because they know people want to have PFPs to kind of represent their identity? Or do we think it's specifically that they're trying to figure out another revenue stream? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to get it more mainstream, just doing it without like the connotations that have been attracted in the bear run.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to take it away with your sections now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just throughout the week, I kind of peruse news articles and things that are related to blockchain gaming, to the metaverse. And so this week, I was just looking at some things that are blockchain gaming related. And I thought it was pretty interesting that the person that headed up games for TikTok left last month after 2 years with the company. And his exit is to go to work for another company that is going to be blockchain gaming based. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that we just see a lot of roads leading to blockchain gaming. And so you would also think that startups and companies that are leery of blockchain gaming for its ties to crypto and the crypto market being down right now, there's obviously enough interest where they recognize that the future of gaming is headed in this direction. So they're taking this time, even throughout the bear market, to gear up and get themselves ready. So I thought this was an interesting take for someone that obviously had a pretty good run and was set up quite nicely for their involvement with TikTok.
Yeah, you see a lot. Yeah, you see a lot of people just making that move into the Web3 space, no matter the company name. Like started with the head of gaming at YouTube. Ryan Watts. He just hopped over, and it seems to be like a no-brainer with a lot of these. You see these names just starting to pop up more and more frequently now, and there's a lot of things that aren't being publicized in the mainstream media. So who knows what's been happening other than these articles that we're pulling.
Right.
Yeah, it's all the same tech. It's just on a discount right now.
Right. I thought this one was pretty interesting. I'd never even heard of them, but I guess there's a new project called Oasis, but spelled OASYS, that they just raised 20 million in their private token sale. And so, which is not, I mean, we've seen lots of companies be able to do that, throughout the past year, but this one was interesting in that it's got a lot of early validators and backers that are taking part in it, from Sega to Ubisoft, as I just mentioned earlier, another player in the gaming space that is trying to figure out how to establish itself in the NFT and blockchain gaming space. And then also they mentioned a number of others, South Korean's video gaming companies, Netmarble, We Made, and Come to Us. And then in the same sentence, they also mentioned YGG, which I thought was pretty interesting that they're including them in that same group of early influential validators. Oh yeah, the Oasis, and of course their token is OAS.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's interesting too, the YGG thing. It's just the roots go deep with these institutions or these guilds or these companies, if I may, because of all of the development and relationships that were built along the way. So there's a lot of revolving door situations going on, and then relationships that were cultivated for years on end before any mainstream media really got hip to what's going on, or traditional companies. So yeah, I'm not surprised. And YGG has trailblazed in their own right. This whole model of guilds to begin with, even though scholarships was what Axie Infinity did. It was just like a hand helps hand or back, situation. So yeah.
So Nat asks here, do you think that they see where the future is, or do they just see the money that they can make before they've even made a product, or both? I think it's in both camps. I think that every company out there that, for example, I'll give you a perfect example because this is kind of like part of my background. In the early 2000s, I spent a lot of time in the early e-commerce digital marketing space, helping businesses to establish a brand online. That was an interesting transition for them. They knew that they had to have an online presence, otherwise they would no longer be able to compete. The same thing happened again in the later part of the early 2000s, around 2008 to 2010, where businesses knew that they had to have a social media presence or they were missing out on the conversation that their target audience was having. And I think businesses are scrambling again as a whole, thinking in terms of what the metaverse and online virtual worlds will be and what does that mean to their brand. So in some instances, part of it is that, especially if they're a game company and they're seeing how all of this interest and money that's spilling over into the blockchain gaming space, I think most of them realize that they need to figure out their role so that they can stay relevant. So that's one part of it. And of course, you've always got people showing up in shareholder meetings and, in other meetings within a company saying, hey, here's an idea I have on how we can create a new stream of revenue. So I think it's a mix of both. Some it's greed-based, some they're just trying to stay relevant and stay alive.
Yep.
Yeah, well put.
Yeah, it's just being relevant and adapting as you go, or else you become obsolete. Like it's pretty it's that simple, I guess.
But the challenge is that, like, they're as we saw, we've seen so many examples within the past year of them doing it wrong because they're doing it for the wrong reasons, and they got so much pushback from their communities because it was almost like a Me Too thing for them just to say, hey, look, we're going to jump in this space. We really don't understand NFTs. So much so that I think that the best thing that the average company can do to participate in this space, if they're going to go the NFT route, is to just make an NFT, like an OG NFT, that is commemorative and free for the people that are the biggest contributors to their community. It's just a way of acknowledging them and appreciating them. People don't get upset over free stuff. It's only when there's an ulterior motive and ways that you're just trying to leverage new technology to make more money, even if it doesn't directly support your community. So yeah, I think we'll start to see more of that now that companies are starting to learn from the mistakes that those have made that have gone before them.
Spot on.
Can I say something real quick about this? This reminds me, which months ago when I heard the news about Square Enix was investing in NFTs and whatnot, especially with the Final Fantasy franchise and the other games that they're going to come out with. But unfortunately, this is sort of a negative news. Unfortunately, a few days ago, they just said that they will no longer invest money into NFTs. So that's, I think, is a really big loss, because that's a really big company, especially talking about Japan. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
No worries, man.
Yeah, but I agree. I think a lot of
Yeah.
these companies, like Just was saying, are jumping in, maybe not knowing enough themselves, but hiring out positions of people who are advisors or the like, and they're retracing now because the the whole arena of Web3 and making money is changing. So the marketing strategy
Right.
has to change. So you
Right,
have
right.
to you have to backtrack and reverse engineer what you're doing. And they might have missed the boat already. Like we've passed that last year, and now everything is changing and being spun on its head. The technology is valid. We all know this, and we're preaching to the choir. But it's just like these big companies, and even Bill Gates. There's an article that pretty much it's just a headline here, but Bill. Uh, Bill Gates over here. He has a came out in the news. Just to quickly, read the headline. This is Bill Gates says NFTs and crypto are 100% based on the greater fool theory. So no one is immune to this, even big companies, because I think we can get into that and we could let just continue, but we can get into the greater fool conversation of how is this the whole world? Is the whole world operating on a greater fool theory in every industry and market? But yeah, just just a little
But I mean,
side.
while you've got that up, I mean, I think it's probably a good segue into it. Like, how would you define that for those that aren't familiar with what this theory proposes?
Sure. So basically, in finance, the greater fool theory suggests that I guess one can sometimes make money through the purchase of an overvalued asset. So as long as there's someone else willing to pay more for the asset that you just acquired that you're selling at a higher markup because you want to make money, then there's someone out there. So items with a purchase price drastically exceeding the intrinsic value. So I'm pulling some off of online here as well. But it basically is that. So like is there someone out there always willing to pay more for what you bought at a price that was lower? So but isn't that how all businesses make money? So I'm just throwing questions out there, rhetorical or not, and Bill Gates is one of these individuals who are just coming out ultimately bashing, maybe not understanding the complete um, the basis of what the technology is and how can it be applied, especially with him owning all the land that you can maybe elaborate on just as far as his background, just acquiring and being an owner of
Yeah, like
most of the farmland out on
in
the planet,
yeah,
on the whole planet. So yeah, I don't I can't speak for anyone, but does Bill Gates understands how he could make more money with blockchain technology if that's what he's ultimately wanting to do? And what I don't know what his goals are in the space or in the world. There's a lot of theories and things that are being thrown around, but yeah, I think this is what we've always been operating in since the days of when markets began and bartering, which is
yeah.
like how much more can you get off of what you've already purchased or traded for? Yep.
And I think another piece of that too, and this is the same thing we've seen from Warren Buffett, is where those who have amassed their fortunes that are so closely tied to fiat currency will use their influence to discourage things that threaten fiat currency. And everything about NFTs and blockchain and cryptocurrency
Sure.
are a threat to traditional finance and fiat currency. So
Right.
that's when I always consider the source when you have someone that's kind of poo-pooing things in the crypto
Mhm.
space. It's like, where do their interests lie?
Right. I think it's just hilarious that the longer you just stay in a space where there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of lucrative opportunities, and you just follow where the big money is, and it's complete opposite, just as the mainstream media sometimes or most of the times are. They talk in double speak, where it's just like what they're saying is what you should do the opposite of.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you have enough time to stick around in this space, you'll see, and even if you go back some, the heads of banks were saying, it's garbage and they'll fire employees. I guess
Mhm.
Jamie Dimon from from Chase Bank, and you'll just see how everyone is now not talking about that anymore or now supporting it, from governments all the way down to just Chipotle accepting Bitcoin as payment to buy food, right? So it's just try not to just listen to any one source of news. Definitely try to get out there and diversify, just like you do with your money, the information that you're consuming, so you can, I guess, not financial advice, make better financial decisions.
Right.
Agreed. Yeah.
There was a number of things suggested here from those of you watching that are spot on. Like questioning, like are NFTs, do they not fall into that category? And I would say that they do, because the truth is, so much that's happened in the blockchain gaming space and with NFTs has been Ponzi based, and essentially what that means is that the value that it holds is dependent upon new people coming in willing to spend more money. And the moment that that caps off, we see the project just drop like a rock, because so much of this was tied to crypto. And on a number of our shows in the past, I've mentioned this, that if we look at the market as a whole, blockchain gaming, it is truly built on funny money. And here's what I mean by that. So you've got lots of people that did well in crypto, and a lot of young people as well, because young people tend to be more flexible in adopting of technology. So as you know, 2017, a lot of people made especially money in ETH and in Bitcoin. And when you have this money that is not sitting in your bank, you treat it a little bit differently. So then when games came along, people were like, wow, you mean I can make money gaming and I can buy assets that I own in these virtual worlds? It's appealing. And so all of a sudden we start buying up these things without really knowing their utility. This was the case definitely with Mirandus. Like it wasn't anywhere on the horizon, but yet they sold somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300 million worth of in-game assets for this game that's still in the early stages of development. Here's where things kind of get tricky with this potential, the fool's theory. The people that have bought these assets up to this point, this is a small market, not a very small market, but it's still a small market of crypto savvy people that have made money in the space. So it's not like they pulled out their credit card to buy these things. Okay. If they had, it would have been a different market altogether. And so now that we own these assets, but what we don't yet know, and also this last bull market created a feeding frenzy, which drove prices and value up. The first homestead, for Mirandus, I think it was like $50 or something, maybe 150. It wasn't that much when it was first sold in their marketplace, but the prices of future releases on NFTs went up and up and up. Why? Because the developers realize that's what the market will bear. And so it inflated this price to such a degree that it's not a real proven economy, because it doesn't involve the masses. So the question becomes, when the masses do come on board from the legacy gaming world, what will the market bear then? And will the developers realize, look, to bring all these people on, we really can't sell these high-priced NFTs anymore? And what will that do to our NFTs that we actually own that were bought during this time when there was a frenzy? That's still unknown. Hopefully they maintain the utility we think they'll have. But truly, when the market starts to move this way, the market might say, look, we're not willing to pay you guys more than $100 for an NFT for gaming. That's a real possibility in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately. But that's why it's important to take a step back when you're initially getting into the space or any particular game, and look at if they will stand the test of time as a company. Do they have the runway as far as financing is concerned, and are they making partnerships that with IPs, maybe, because that still goes a long way. They're having relationships with brands that in the traditional space, and artists, or music directors, or the film industry. If we're talking about Gala, they're making the connections so much, I guess, so deep and strong in a way that it's a better bet, I guess. So the assets for Mirandus in this particular flagship game for Gala Games, it would it would be the best thing in their interest to follow up with all the things that they've promised as far as what the deeds will be, and what would be, I guess, what will be the game of Mirandus. And if it's time, if it's only time that they need, then hey, at this point, you're just going to take as much time as you're going to need to build out this game while everything else is happening. And we're going to be the ones who have purchased at a lower or medium or even expensive price, and we're going to have to wait. As a community, we could always put the pressure on any particular developer or gaming company in this space, more so than in a traditional space. You'll be drowned out from the masses of people. But I think it's important to still support projects in the space as a whole. Maybe not so much financially anymore, but more as along the lines of education and security, and then introduction to with free NFTs just to play betas that you can earn and get this whole idea of how it works when you play and earn via, I guess, some particular skill that's involved, not just you're here to make money and you could quit your day job
Right.
and then live off of anything in the crypto Web3 space. So yeah, I agree.
I mean, yeah, especially when you have projects like, I mean, even I'm looking forward to seeing what Mirandus will do. If they get the crafting right, and I hope I hope they broaden the way they interact with their community to get feedback, and that they hire economists and they figure out how can we really dial in a player run economy. That will be amazing. Just the same way Star Atlas seems to be really committed to creating this virtual economy. And so these are both massive experiments in the works. And I'm excited to see how they're going to pan out. And that's why I'm here to be a part of it, because it's really exciting if for what it could become, for sure.
Yeah. I think I can, let me jump in here with my screen. I want to share, to your point, Jess, what Mirandus, and I know we're not stuck on Mirandus. We're not gonna throw any shade on it. We were just using it as an example because it is one of those in the front of the lines as far as
Right.
everything that they're trying to do related, and it's involving Web3. They're building their own blockchain. They're in film, music, right? So by far, compared to any other project, a lot of projects are talking about making a comic book series or an anime series, or these are thoughts and maybe some plans behind the scenes that are working towards what Gala is doing publicly with marketing. Who knows what percentage of progress they're at with any one of these things? They don't disclose any of that. There aren't any white papers or roadmaps, and Gala doesn't believe in that. So we are only really speculating. But they're out here marketing, pouring millions, double-digit millions, and who knows how much the number is now as far as the marketing is concerned. But we have Yuga Labs, right? One of the largest NFT projects, Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, where they had their what do you call it? Their stress tests for the other side, right? And
wow.
and here we have the Improbables. It's a third-party company that's working with Yuga Labs, right, and Bored Ape Yacht Club to have. This is what their game essentially is going to be, and this is a stress test. There was a lot of talk on the Twitter spaces of like, this is trash, like this isn't nothing special, right? No matter what is given to people as far as the stress tests or development updates with the art and the actual avatars or how functionalities are going to work in the game, I don't know, it's probably never enough. You really become humbled in Web3 space compared to what traditional gamers. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say, that tall dude walking around there, a couple of them. What I want to see, what this reminds me of, and what I would love to see in this test right here, is just somebody stand right here, so we have the camera angle, and everyone go as far as they can away, and then everyone run at this camera angle, just like in that the one shot in Ready Player One.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the first thing so some context before we get into it, but this is a stress test, like I said, for the game of what the land gameplay and the ultimate game for Bored Ape Yacht Club is going to look like. And they are doing emote testing in chat on the left hand side. Let me full screen this maybe. And we have on the left hand side a chat going, and then there's some directional. And shout out to Dave versus Axie. He's the gentleman on the bottom right. He's been in the space for a while. Started with Axie, a great content creator. So there's an actual voice chat that's taking place. I don't know if you hear some chattering going on. So these two large avatars are I guess you'll say the developers, let's call it. And these are the ones hosting the stress tests. So if you watch any of these videos, I don't know if you can find them on YouTube, but he's on Twitch, Dave versus Axie. You can probably check him out. Top left, it's disaster._ETH. And you could watch that there's different things that these developers asked of the people. So I think this is the second day, which was yesterday, of the stress test, and max was around like 3,000 people. At the top right of the screen, you see the amount of people in the server at any one time. And what one of the developers would say is, all right, everyone spread out as far as you can, utilize all the space, and then everyone run to the middle, right? To see how it's all to stress ultimately, and see what they can fix and optimize to make the game better. And then there's emotes, right? So there's the emote wheel that, okay, everyone, if you're happy, click on the heart emote. So spam the emote, spam emotes, and then they would spam their voice. They turn on. So they're doing all these things with all these people in there, and it just gets me thinking like, okay, all of these games that were around and being developed before Bored Ape Yacht Clubs was even an NFT, just art, right? It wasn't. It was just generative art. Before any of this happened, what were the priorities of these gaming companies or these Web3 companies or these developers with selling their NFTs to begin with? So I'm not thinking of just the floor price of any particular NFT who is now building a game on top of the NFTs. I'm thinking of what was the initial intention. And I cannot say in confidence because we're not even told these things. We're even told by Gala Games that this isn't an investment. Don't think of it as an investment, and that's it. And if any talk of it, we'll delete you, ban you. And they don't say this outright. Some of the I think it has been talked about, but it just goes to show that there's a whole spectrum of intentions, and you see that with the actions. So you'll follow, look at the actions, not what's being said, right? It's important to hear what's being said and what's being talked about. But I just love the idea of how it's going to be Ready Player One situations as far as the metaverse is concerned, and hopefully all of them are going to be that type of feel, and you just now choose the genre of game you want to play. But again, where are the priorities with any of these gaming companies? And if it is a flagship game for Gala Games with the MMO Mirandus, I would love to have it similar to this, right? They have talked about having, and they shared photos of 500 avatars on the screen at once, but it was only a still clip, or it was a zooming out, helicopter view of them all standing still. So ultimately, this is what's going to be required if we're going to have this new era of gaming come in. We're going to need all this stuff to be looking like this with thousands and thousands of things happening on one screen at one time. So
this is one of the best examples of a town hall / test stress test that I've seen, and it's pretty impressive. And one other request I would have in this here is I would want to see a goalpost, and I want to see how far they can punt some people.
Yeah, that was funny. Yep. So
apparently, this is an old video. There's one 10,000 times more impressive. What's the requirements to join these tests?
Well, I think you had to have the NFT, and then I guess register. So I wasn't on top of what was going on as far as like Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, and I think what you're referring to was this first stress test. The first stress test had, which was the day before yesterday, had the most people in it, and that's what there was one by Immutable. Not Immutable, I'm sorry, Improbable is the company, and they've shared video of a different server, I guess, testing something out, and there was way more people. I think that's what you might be talking about. If you go to their Twitter page, they were a company that's been doing this for a long time, and just now they've partnered with Bored Ape Yacht Clubs to help them build out their other side game. So I'm sure they've made greater milestones as far as what besides what you see here. But yeah, I think it's great, and I want every game to be looking like that. I want that experience to be similar. But yeah, Jess, I can hop it back over to you. I just wanted to make this. It was perfect to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, we were essentially talking about NFTs and blockchain and the value of them and where the industry as a whole is going, and businesses looking to participate. And then we even got into talking about Gala. And one of the things that I was going to mention is that it's not just with Mirandus and the fact they sold a couple 100 million NFTs just for that game. And before I leave that, the reason it's nice to be able to say we don't believe in white papers, but the truth is that the reason they did never drop a white paper on that is because at the time they didn't even know what they were going to do. So there was no way to create a white paper. And what we've seen develop since confirms and demonstrates that. But they also have NFTs for the music industry, and they're also going to have NFTs for film. So it's going to be interesting how they will find a price point for those, for what the market will bear. Because I mean, while I'm not heavy into understanding what the music NFTs in the film are going to be about, but they are selling them for a pretty decent price. You can buy I guess one of the nodes that's related to music, and then you can buy individual songs. But for me, it's still like, I don't understand why I would want to do that, because I don't necessarily understand what the earning model is to be able to spend that much money on NFTs in the music space. So that's another thing that's kind of like, and I would almost feel better about it if that was their focus. But once you start saying, you know what, I'm in the music business now, I'm in the movie business, film, and I'm also in gaming, you're starting to spread yourself a little thin, and that's a little concerning.
Yeah, it's like you had 5 wives. Like, what one wife is going to think that you're going to give your all to them when you're having dinner, when you have all these other obligations? So we need a roadmap. We need to have a conversation. There needs to be a dialogue. There needs to be information shared of where you stand and why and what you're doing.
Right.
It's very important. So yeah, I guess we can. Did you have more, Jess, on your?
I had just a couple more slides, I think 1 or 2, and this was just another TechCrunch article talking about how blockchain gaming unfazed by crypto volatility as gamers seek out entertainment. And so this is an interesting thing because the assumption is that the reason that we saw this massive decline in blockchain gaming, and there has been some, but it hasn't been to the scale that I think a lot of people think, because as Robbie Young of Animoca here is saying that people have a tendency to couple crypto markets with blockchain games and content, but actually it's only as appropriate as linking tech stocks on NASDAQ with businesses of tech companies. There's a certain correlation, but it's not tenuous. And I would agree with that because it's not like blockchain projects where all of the attention is only there as a result of what's happening, momentum in the industry. Gaming and gamers are going to game regardless, and they do see the value in what blockchain can do for it, even if the prices of crypto are down. And so, I think it's nice to be able to see others in the space that are saying, look, yeah, I mean, we're able to find evidence that suggests that it is not fully coupled to crypto. And here we can see that in May, there were 1.15 million daily active wallets interacting with blockchain games, down about 5% from the previous month. Now, I'd love to see a chart over time just to see how this scales in its relationship with the rest of crypto. But I could definitely see it having its own influences that allow it to somewhat decouple. It's not going to fully decouple because crypto is crypto, and that's just how the market's going to roll. But I could still see the interest staying in there because think about it. If you and I find a good game, we're not going to play it less because of what the market's doing. If we're actually playing it because we get real value in the game and we get that entertainment value, we're still going to be there participating regardless of what the market does.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I just I just see it's like simultaneously you see where the future can be, where we are now, and then where we came from, and it's just like to think about all these things. It's great for us, but for people coming in, we always have to kind of ground ourselves and just think about put our shoes in. Put our feet in the shoes of people who are coming in. As far as our audience, I think we preach to the choir often, and then I'm sure there's some things that we might talk about that even the individuals who are knowledgeable on what's going on, like an article here, an article there, or even like a developing game that no one is interested in or they haven't heard of. It's all valuable to anyone who's listening. But I can only imagine, like I was at that point once, just listening to a stream or a YouTube video, and there was so much words and things that I didn't know, and I had to just hear them and research them enough to then get my footing on what's actually happening. So it's been many years since then, but if you are one of those individuals, just hang out with us, subscribe, join the Discord. We have channels and individuals who will gladly answer any of your questions, and we are all learning as we are going as well. So don't feel like you're out there alone as a nomad in the metaverse. And if you are, we have a home for you. So you can check out GoRoam.io, just to plug in our guild here. But
just like every other bleeding edge industry, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
You might lose some money, you might make some money, but keep your pants on.
That's it.
Yep.
You got something there, Limina, that you wanted to add?
No, I just completely agree with you. I mean, in this space, and probably a lot of people will agree with me. Even though it doesn't really matter how many years you spend on in Forex or in Wall Street or in different markets, SP 500, Dow Jones, especially in crypto space, I feel like you can't really make money if you don't lose anything. I mean, people usually start with losing, and then there's definitely a learning curve. No matter what there's always something. And but now the market is a bearish market. Who knows where's the dip? But if you all believe that if this is the future of finance and industry is evolving and gearing towards this, I think in the long run, this is still a really really small market compared to Dow Jones. I mean, it's just we just below 1 trillion, and we just reached to 2 trillion. Compared to 45-50 trillion dollars markets, this is nothing. So
Yeah.
we are still at the very early stages.
Yep. Yeah, again, it's just I'm going to breeze through these next couple of ones here. There's just another one pointing to how players don't need to be crypto experts to play Web3 games, and I think that's what a lot of the developers now are trying to look to ways to kind of make it easy for onboarding. I know Star Atlas is definitely in that space where they're exploring partners and ways to make it easy for people that aren't crypto savvy, that want to use a credit card, buy a small ship and jump into the game. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Companies and individuals and groups, and including the show, looking to educate people so that their comfort levels and their level of awareness about the industry makes it so that it's a lot easier for them to begin to take part.
Yeah, and I think if all else fails, we have Sam Bankman-Fried, who can, with his billions of dollars, as the Financial Post has said, he can basically save the whole space. So just wanted to just share this real quick. I thought it was funny, but it's also pretty important that. Where's my stream? I had the stream. Thank you, Fancy. Or Jess. But yeah, crypto exchange FTX has a few billions to support the industry. So Sam Bankman-Fried, head of one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges, FTX, has said that his company still has a few billions on hand to shore up struggling firms that could further destabilize the digital asset industry, but that the worst of the liquidation crunch has likely passed. Just to read the first paragraph there, or the first sentence. So, it's important to learn who these players are, just as in the traditional space, as we know our Amazons and YouTubes, the big fintech companies. But then also above that, we have governments, so again, preaching to the choir here, but in this space of Web3, there's a lot of hedge funds, there's a lot of, centralized entities that you should, I guess, learn about before jumping in again to Web3 gaming. And then the same applies to Web3 gaming. It's a smaller niche of what crypto is. So learn about who the big players are, who are developing, who have the money, as far as these gaming companies who are going to last 10 years from now, just based off the amount of money they made, because they could always innovate and build on top of what they had, which you might have thought in the beginning was a crap type of idea or a crappy game. But there's a lot of money involved and a lot of investors money at stake, and there's a lot of pressure on these shoulders of who are developing these games. So it's all entertaining, and you'll be following it all here if you just stay tuned with Metaverse Nomads, another pitch. So just wanted to share that.
Nice. The last one I had here is just, again, Mutable X in the news, and about how they're trying to approach assisting with the onboarding of legacy gamers. A number of things that they're doing is looking to appeal to mainstream gamers by making their wallet integrating with credit card payments, free NFT minting, closing in on 28 million now, building new games within hours. I don't know much about their platform for development, but they are doing some pretty cool things. Like, I didn't realize this, that they launched a $500 million, so a $500 million developer and venture fund to be able to support more projects coming into the player and gaming space. So good on them. And my experience with them has been limited to a couple of different projects. And the one that we talk about on the show is Illuvium. Illuvium is definitely using them. And the NFT launch that Illuvium did for land sales was on Mutable X, and it was probably the smoothest, most complex NFT sale that I personally participated in, because not only was it land sale, it was a Dutch auction, and they had 5 different tiers, plus they had a land map with 7 different regions and all these different things that made it so that it could have gone horribly wrong because there were so many variables, but it was incredibly smooth, and there was essentially no gas wars. Just like so many different things about it went incredibly well. So that's my only experience with Immutable X, and it was a pleasant one.
Yeah, they have some notable games that either just recently, like Illuvium, jumped on board. Like Gods Unchained is an old school one that we might know, a card game. We have WAGME. If you go to their website, you see all these things, and it's pretty in depth. Ember Swords just made the switch over as well, because a lot of these games are not developing their own blockchains to run on top of, and are using just the networks or the layer ones as that we know already. Like, for example, Gala Games is trying to build their own, right? Axie Infinity has already built one, and they were one of the first to do so, which was just I guess a task that is daunting in itself to just do, along with, I guess, developing a game. And you have all these other games just looking to focus on building games, but then utilizing what the developers are doing as far as these layer ones are concerned. So we have Solana with Star Atlas, right? And I think there's going to be healthy relationships with these existing, layer ones. Immutable X here is doing phenomenal, and they kind of came out of nowhere,
Right.
and slowly built their name up to be a juggernaut of sorts in the space. So yeah, definitely keep your eye out.
Can I add something real quick to the
Of
Immutable
course.
X?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have some experience with Immutable X, and I've been trading on it for quite some time. And there's this app called Ray. You might know this, the VV app. They have these NFTs, like licensed NFTs by Disney and Marvel and all those companies, and they also have this sort of on their roadmap and the white paper called a gamification. So all the NFTs are going to be somehow gamified. And now they're changing the network, and they're actually now switching to Immutable X. So people will be able to buy these NFTs on Immutable X. And I would assume they're going to work with Immutable X to gamify their products. But the reason why I want to say this, because with these now layer 2s, there are upcoming layer 2s, and there are a lot of potential airdrops. This is not a financial advice, but the word is out that Immutable X might have a token, and they have their own layer 2. You just need to swap Ethereum, like 0.2 Ethereum or something like that, back and forth at your layer 2, and who knows, you might get an airdrop. Not a financial advice, just so you know. That's all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought are you talking about a new token that's coming out from Immutable X? Because they have their token.
Yeah, new token that they're coming out from Immutable X.
Oh, okay.
And you just need to, if you're going to get, if they do an airdrop, if they do it, then you just need to do like a swap on their L2.
Right. Yeah, because I for Guild of Guardians, I created my account. I had moved some money over, and I was pretty active there for some time. But yeah,
Right.
There's so many things to take care of. I still have some ETH there, actually. You reminded me, so I might as well just move things around and test out whatever they're offering, just because of a potential airdrop. Those things too are becoming almost like having some bad associations with, as far as like what not to do anymore, right? So, but again, if it's a reputable company like Immutable, and what they're doing is innovative and is changing and helping around, so I don't see an issue with it. It's still a good way to advertise and market.
Yep.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I've got. Their fancy hats. What do we got? Anything else in general news, or we don't want to jump into one of the projects we always cover?
Yeah, I squeezed in mine, so I guess we can just hop into the specific games.
So
if you got more, Ray, that's fine. If you've got other stuff.
No, I was saying I squeezed them in as we were talking.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, one of the big things to happen this week was Athia coming out with their Star Atlas firepower list, which very interesting. Some of these calculations. I think it's important to read out how they did it first.
Right.
So in the economic report, like from the footnotes we mentioned last week, the components are not linearly additive. For example, 2 small class maneuvering thrusters do not equate to a medium maneuvering thruster. Equates to about 73.5 of 1 medium. So based on that math and everything we do know, they gave each one a score and divided that by the VWAP to see what the actual like firepower is relative to all the other different ships.
So, I mean, it's interesting, and I love to see creative calculations for how this comes up, and so, but it occurs to me that this is one of a number of factors that would need to be considered. For example, so you've got firepower, but then you also have um, shields and hull construction of another ship. So in other words, if you took those 2 ships and you put them head to head, or 2 categories of ship, even if one had greater firepower, the whole strength of another ship is going to be a factor. Maneuverability of that ship as well is probably going to be an additional factor. So it'll be interesting to see a category just like this for those other things, for the hull and for maneuverability, and also to see how those are weighted. And of course, we're reaching deep into the minds of what Chipto and others on the dev team would come up with for algorithms for how those all would compare. But immediately, what are your thoughts about how you would use this information? And it'd be great to have Funcracker on to kind of share his thoughts on how this was put together.
Yeah.
So one of the most interesting parts about this is the Visus Ballad has actually sold out now. Like this has been revealed. It's quite high up there for what it has. Like that's a long list, even higher than the Calico Guardian. But there isn't any numbers associated so far with like bombing, like things like ammunition. So it's very limited set of numbers, but it does give us like a good reference.
If you could scroll back down to those bullet points you were just showing, there was one there that I think is obviously going to be a big factor, and that is turret gunners may play a role in how effective a weapon's hardpoint can be used, but have no effect on raw firepower for now. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, there's just going to be so many variables. It's going to really be difficult to tell, which variables, when combined, have the biggest factors within gameplay.
And I think this is a great foundation that they're setting for when the actual numbers come out or the information comes out. So good on AFIA for doing this. And I was reading in the foundation room or one chat in the official Star Atlas server, a conversation of the ballads having like 1/3. So if you wanted to split up a C11, right, you would get just 4 ballads, because what would equate to the firepower would total those 4 to a C11. So instead of having a C11 stationed on the map, if we're playing the actual game, you can have essentially a third of or however the fractions are divided up, if you want to call it one. So you just have it split apart instead of compare it with all the information that we have now. So nothing. This is all speculative at the end of the day, and ultimately we're gonna have to wait to know. And I wouldn't make or suggest anyone making financial decisions on information that we have now, as far as what ships you would buy for any particular purpose for gameplay. But you want to have, in my opinion, a well-rounded fleet of things as far as fighters and the like. So.
Yeah, I agree. Like the Thimble Ecos Unabomber is at 2 firepower. I assume that would be around 10, perhaps lower than the Calico Medtech, but that bomb will do a lot of damage. So, yeah, and also the Thimble Ecos Tree Arrow at the top, that would definitely be more than the PIS 11, I reckon,
Right.
when all the bombs and things have been added in.
Yeah.
The bombers have scored quite well in general, though. I was surprised to see the transports also having quite a lot of firepower on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting how this is all going to change just based off of all the other things that you would incorporate into how strong, as far as firepower is concerned, any ship is compared to another.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that the thought was put into this here, and I know I saw that Sensei Yamura commented there. Is this your handiwork? I know that you're part of Alfeo over there. Or is this something that Funcracker directly put together? Be curious to know what was kind of like the catalyst for you guys creating this document. You were saying something, or Lumina?
No, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, you guys are right, but also, I mean, we don't really know a lot of the mechanics, and not just that. If I'm not mistaken, in one of the intels that we heard at the forming of fleets of multiple ships is core to the Scream, which means there will be fleet formations. So, and if you think about the roles of the ships, so I'm always making this reference to, like a World of Warcraft game. There's like a tank, there's a DPS, melee DPS, a range DPS, and a support role. So yes, I mean, weapon hardpoints and missile bays and turrets, these are all great in terms of what type of numbers they have given to them. However, if the fleet formation is important, yes, Visus Pellet might be great in terms of firepower, but you might need a sort of like a tanky ship in front when you have the fleet formation on screen, because Chipto said that the fleet formation is really crucial in Scream. So, but when I think about fleet formation, I'm not just thinking about having 10 of the same ships in a different formation. I'm thinking about more of a sort of a tank support and range DPS type of role. But I mean, it's just a theory crafting. But I mean, yes, this might be right, very accurate too, but without having the exact facts, can't really, make up my mind, honestly.
Yeah, there's so many unknown variables, but the Calico Enforcer having like 100 more than the PSF4, I think that's quite impressive. Well, 80 more. Like just that massive gun at the front, that's makes it the highest ranked medium.
Isn't that insane that this medium ship has a capital weapon hardpoint? It's just nuts. It's like a ship strapped to this massive gun.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the next ones to be bought up after this and the Visus Ballad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's the Enforcer that was also having a mosquito-like body to it. And
Right.
on the Rome's Twitter account, I guess we were tagged. I forget by who now, but someone said that Rome is fond and likes these type of mosquito ships, and I said, on the contrary, my friend, because we like cheese. So we also like the Ohm line or the rainbow line.
Cool. So essentially, yeah, it was Sensei Yamura who put this together, and the catalyst, of course, was the economic report. So in essence, it was him looking at the economic report and figuring out a way to use some of that data to theory craft or put together a model that gives us an idea of how they compare. So good on you for doing that. Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I believe the missiles are just it's assumed that they're twice as powerful as like a weapon, like a normal gun. So yeah, that's something that could be a bit off. Like there are loads of ships with big missiles, but they are quite spread evenly across all the classes. I think it'll be the drones that really throw off these numbers, quite frankly, because they can be like entire ships, like the whole tank.
Right.
So you guys think that when Scream comes out, is there going to be like a handbook that's going to give you an idea of how some of the things work? Like, is this handbook going to say here are the 20 craftable or harvestable resources? Things that kind of help us understand, the value of things during gameplay, the significance of fleet sizes. Of course, we're going to know like how hangars will scale and that sort of thing. But you think it's going to be like a little mini handbook, or you think they're just going to be like figure it out as you go?
I'm thinking that because we are in Web3 gaming, any of this information that would be given to us would sway the market prices. So I'm thinking there would be a lot of experimentation needing to be done on part of the community or the existing community And then we'll have tools like this that share, but I don't think there's going to be any direct information. There should be a little tutorial, like with any game, right? There's a adventure tutorial that walks you through what's this and why you should think this is important. And but I don't think there's going to be any particular information that we're given. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be that easy either. And there was some conversation in the official Discord of Star Atlas also saying that to keep the retention of users or new users, you don't want it to be as complicated as maybe Stellaris is when you start playing it as a new
Yeah.
person. There's just a lot to digest and a lot to go through on the screen,
Right.
let alone just the definitions of things and all of the options that you have. So I think with it being a little bit more easy to learn what's going on, but then make it a little bit more complicated and difficult as you play is the best route to take.
Yeah. So you think there'll be any cutscenes or anything like that they'll be adding to it, or do you think it'll be kind of like like that little commercial that they have in the very beginning of Starship Troopers? I forget what that line was they were saying when you see all the people showing up, "I'm ready," or whatever it was.
Yeah,
So cool.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see if there are any videos or trailers that go along with. We have the 4 to 6 weeks that we're going to be covering, I guess, soon. But I'm interested to see what type of footage we'll get. Yeah, we could jump into it then.
Yeah, there isn't much information regarding this. We know it's on the 21st, and it's going to be a event. They're going to drop a module. They weren't very specific about which one. So, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, on the recent Twitter space with Ash and community members in Star Atlas, there was a lot of talk about why the jungle-esque feel with the background, with the fog and smoke. Is there something that's going to be coming out of that? Right? We just don't know. And at this point, with 4 to 6 weeks as the marketing campaign, I just hope that what was talked about as far as what's going to be released actually is released with at the 6-week mark, because this is an actual timeline, right? This is something that was more or less promised to us, and there was a list of things. So more power to the team, and hopefully they follow through with all of the things that they were listing that were going to be revealed on the 21st. There's going to be a huge event, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, what do you guys think about them leaning into the 4 to 6 meme? As people who have been around, like waiting for the product, and that 4 to 6 week mark passing by. Yeah, what are your opinions?
Well, I don't know if anyone wants to take it on. I'll say that depending on how long you've been in the game, you might not feel too good about it, because the 4 to 6 weeks was mentioned before, and then there wasn't really follow through on whatever. So some people might associate 4 to 6 weeks with like, okay, I've been traumatized because we've been promised and it hasn't happened. But now there's a whole, I don't know how much more people have come into the community that have been new, but I don't see it as totally a bad thing. It's something to rally the community around, to look forward to something. And honestly, I don't think the team would push it this hard and adopt it as the meme of the community unless they knew they were going to actually release a good portion of what they're talking about within 4 to 6 weeks, because then it would make them just look even worse. Depending on if you, again, were around for the initial, we're going to release something in 4 to 6 weeks, and it didn't really happen that way. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Ray. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Thank you. So, Lumina, I believe you had a bit of news from Coexist.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. Well,
giving the floor.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, especially for the people, the Turks who are watching the stream, and also all the people in the Muslim faith who are celebrating the sacrificial festival, which is the Eid. Today, happy Eid to all who are celebrating it. I gotta say, I have been eating a lot of kebabs in the last 2 days, and a lot of baklava, so I'm not feeling that great. But yeah, it's sort of a eating celebration in a way. But before we get into the Coexist, I would like to share a few things about the Bitcoin adoption. Now, I think this is really important because there are a lot of Turkish investors, and this actually applies to all of the sort of the second and the third world countries. And not a lot of people probably know it by this time, especially with the Turkey's inflation rate. It has hit its highest level in the past, I think 30 years. Like the annual inflation is right now close to 80% in Turkey. It is crazy now. And I think the Turkish Statistical Institute, they just published the last month's figure. Just monthly increase was literally 5%.
Wow.
So it's really crazy right now. But I mean, there are several reasons why the inflation rate has risen to such an astronomical figure. I mean, there's including the increasing cost of energy and Russia, Ukraine war and whatnot, and obviously the weakening of the Turkish lira. And there are some political reasons to which I'm not going to get into. But the other countries in the world are sort of facing similar inflation rate spikes. I mean, the European Central Bank, they just set to increase the interest rate for the first time in 11 years. So I mean, this is definitely going on, but I think there's this cool thing happening right now, which I just checked some of the statistics right before actually I just came to the stream. Now the Turks, they literally turned to Bitcoin as an inflation hedge just because of inflation now. Like while the Turkish lira has been weakening so much, the amount of BTC volume, especially on the local Bitcoins in the region, has been growing considerably. Like BTC peer-to-peer trading volumes in the first quarter and the second quarter of 2022 have seen a massive increases compared to the fourth quarter of 2021. So I think this is really important because no matter where there's a crypto adoption, it just helps the entire crypto space to grow and be more popular and more adopted. So I just wanted to share that with the Turkish audience and the entire, Metaverse Nomads audience before we get into Coexist stuff. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's important to take a step back, not just within gaming, but as far as like countries and their economies as well. So it's great to have someone from a different country who keeps their ear to the ground there as their whole family and background is, and the population of their guild. No matter where you live, if you have a guild that appeals and specific to one region or one country, then I think that it's just as important. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
I think when I see the rest of the world and I see media sources in the U.S. that are criticizing other countries that are diving into Bitcoin more and more, I think that's just out of fear because I think that there's the strong potential that those countries that are doing that are going to gain new levels of sovereignty that aren't tied to traditional world finance. I mean, we keep seeing the U.S. media try and beat up El Salvador for their doubling down and buying another 80 Bitcoin within the last week as it dipped down to around 19. So, I think in the long run, that's those stories that they're covering, trying to kind of like down talk it, aren't going to age well. I think it's going to look good on the part of those countries that are saying, hey, we see the future in it. We're digging in.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Yeah. All right. Well, where do you want to start with, Fancy? Which one should we?
So I can just bring up whichever you want to.
Let's talk about the magazine. I know you guys are looking forward to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I love my magazines.
So as you know, because the crypto space is sort of being bearish market and everything, not all the discourse are full now. At least they were. I mean, before we had so many people theory crafting and strategizing and even playing games on Discord, but when the market kind of went down, the population kind of went down too. So we were like, hey, you know what, a lot of our players, not just in our guild but also in the entire startup community ecosystem, they might not be up to date with their faction and the things that are going on, and especially after winning the Copa event, which was really great experience for us. We were like, well, maybe we should do something about it and keep the community up to date. I mean, we are having a lot of different projects going on all at the same time. So this is one of them that we wanted to do it so much, but we just didn't have time to. So our goal was to create this little magazine called The ONI Times. And so the what I'm trying to do is to give some information about the ONI guilds in Star Atlas and what they've been up to, and especially each month we are going to introduce a different guild. So in the first issue, we're actually going to introduce the Atlasia family. Also, each month we're going to have a Q&A with at least one of the members of Star Atlas team. So we're starting with Michael Wagner himself. So we did a little Q&A with him. He was kind enough to send the answers. So and we are planning to publish it 15th of each month. And then we'll also have different type of gaming related articles. Some of them might be related to theory crafting on Scream, maybe the staking mechanism, descriptions of ships, and also different type of game modes. And this is going to be completely free in a PDF format, and people will be able to browse through it on the website too. So this is one of the initiatives that we're going to release each month. Obviously, there we're gonna have a section related to obviously with Copa.
Right.
We can't really skip that. So this is our sort of a when we'll see in the future we might think about adding some news about the other faction too. But for now we're gonna stick with the ONI and ONI only. And then who knows? Maybe Rome might be the next to introduce in our magazine in the next month. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome to have a feature in Rome. And I think what you're doing is phenomenal as far as what it's going to require everyone as far as like keeping people up to date in the factions. For the as far as Mud and Ooster, I guess someone in their communities are going to have to pull up and take on that responsibility, just because the game has started, as Wagner said many times before, and this is all strategic developments, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. One of the reasons I like this as well is that I envision a day if the vision of Star Atlas unfolds as we all hope that it will, there'll be a day when each of the factions have their own complete culture. There's going to be lots of opportunities for media sources. You might even have someone that just has the mining news for what's going on in a particular faction, or here's today's recap of battles. And so I love the idea of media sources being put together like what you're doing here with the ONI Times, to really kind of keep people within the ONI faction kind of up to speed on interesting happenings around ONI.
Yep. So that's our goal. Another one is the we teased it during the Copa event, and I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it, but I personally read the Rome Guild's lore, which was great. But we also had our own lore, sort of a short lore, a few pages, but we have a great actually professional writer who actually two of his books were bestsellers in Turkey. So he was kind enough to write the Coexist story. So we call this project as the project Messier Initium. So that's going to be the name of the book. It's a novel about Coexist. It's going to feature the sort of the era before the war and after the war. So some of the parts that Star Atlas didn't even, I don't know if they, thought about that part of the lore, but we already, thinking about it, honestly. And he already wrote 3 chapters, so which is sort of crazy. But one of these days, I'm going to talk to Wagner and see if he might be interested to maybe include some of the lore from Coexist into the Star Atlas. Who knows? So we this is a long process, obviously, and he's working really, really hard on it. But it will take few months, obviously, for him to finish this. But it's really going to be a really great project. And the thing is, we kind of made it close to our own story and also close to the Star Atlas story too. My only issue is, because I saw Dominic out there, I might need to contact with Star Atlas, because we are still debating if we are allowed to use the terms like Uster, Mud, and Oni, and Fotoli, Sigmund. I mean, all those terms.
Yeah.
So still need to check with them if you are allowed. If not, we're gonna come up with our own. Hopefully, they allow us because I mean now this is sort of a non-profit project, but
You know what my guess is on that, and again, I'm obviously not speaking on behalf of Star Atlas, but my guess is that because this is built around so much community driven activity, and that is kind of what the future, the way that they've even mapped out governance to where eventually they will become a contracted developer for Star Atlas. I think that as long as you make it clear that what you have created is fan fiction and you state that somewhere, then I don't there's probably not, in other words, you're not trying to represent that this is Star Atlas's version of lore. It's rather fan fiction. I think you'll probably be granted free reign to do it.
Yeah, I seem to
agree.
remember you mentioning a book about like Eve stuff, Jesse. So yeah, I guess there is precedent. There was a question in the comments for you, Lumina, if you'd be open to like working with Usta, so each faction could have something similar.
I think, well, yeah, I mean that's that's a nice proposition. Yeah, we should definitely. I'll definitely look into it. Yeah, absolutely. That might be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say for each faction there can be someone who contributes to the times, and then it could grow into every faction having some type of news being updated if the community members, and then also for particular guilds, if there's anyone from Rome, shout out to Winston for really hunkering down and creating that Roman lore that we contribute that he contributed to the guild and for the whole community as a whole. If there's anyone out there who have those skills and have the time, they can always, for any particular guild, I see that also being a thing where there'll be a guild segment or a portion of the times where there'll be updates just from what's happening within this particular guild.
Yeah. I mean, we and I gotta say, when he started because our own story is inspired by Star Atlas lore itself. Like we sort of implemented real world sort of events into the Star Atlas's universe. Like according to us, when the Fotoli visited Earth, there was this a shepherd who was, dealing with his ships up in the mountains of Mongolia, and then he saw this sort of a light being in the sky. So I mean, there's that type of fan fiction, obviously, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, the entire thing is definitely inspired by the Star Atlas universe. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Was there another that we needed to cover?
Well, this is just a little update, and I know a lot of the people are probably looking forward to this. But as you know, we also are building an Unreal Engine 5 game for the Star Atlas community.
All right.
So, and then I got a quote from one of the guilds in the United Metaverse Accords the other week. They were like, "Well, you guys won the Copa." And I thought you guys would stop, but no, we are not stopping. I mean, we keep building and building. So yes, the game is still being underdeveloped. So we just released a teaser video until so people can take it's just a new additions to the Unreal Engine 5 game. And I gotta say, hopefully by sometime in fall, we're going to have a multiplayer integration. So let's watch it, Fancy.
Yeah. I think you may need to no sound, so you're gonna have to share.
Oh,
my bad. I think I have YouTube muted for the stream.
No sound, so you're gonna have to share.
Oh, my bad.
Watch it
there
twice.
You go.
Okay.
And you can actually see Rome's logo on the right-hand side when the character goes into the hangar. It's right over there.
Nice. Very nice.
So this is the new edition to the hangar, which again inspired by the showroom itself. If you remember the showroom, there was a train station and sort of a space train.
All right.
So we kind of added that.
Looking so good, man.
No, that was it. Thanks. So yeah, I mean, we also mentioned it in our last stream with you guys. So first, we're going to have a Elyria-based FPS game inside this hangar module, and then that train station, that train actually will go into the mountains, some unexplored places. It's gonna go underneath the ocean, and then some other unexplored places, and so that we can have this sort of a organic environment with the FPS game, and then ultimately the spaceship racing game.
Yeah, very cool. I put that fan-made game thing up there because last time there was someone who thought that was the official showroom.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's not at all. Yeah. All right. There are a few other things that because I think we just had a partnership with the Hairy Beats. It's a NFT marketplace that's coming out in the near future, in the very near future. So they are trying to reach the global communities, and we're going to try their ecosystem. So we assigned the partnership agreement with them. And when we wanted to create an NFT, they're going to open their market to us. Also, we're going to get some whitelist and first-hand token sales from them. And also, when with this partnership, from all the sales that they're going to have, and from the income, for total income, they're going to distribute 5% of their total income from all the sales in the marketplace to the wallet holders, close to 20,000 wallets. And we're going to have some of these wallets in our guild, so 5% of the sales we're going to get them. So that's sort of a partnership that we're going to get. And then when there's a launchpad, we're going to test their launchpad, their products, and sort of do a beta test and whatnot. So I'm almost like a consultation plus, passive income type deal that we're going to do with them. And also, just last week, we also got our actual name in terms of for the treasury wallet address. So now we have our own domain. It's called coexist.guild.soul, something like that. So yeah, so this is the site that we got it from. It's pretty cool, and I actually knew about it before, but I honestly didn't really pay attention to it. But it's kind of nice to have a easy to read, just like instead of writing an IP address, having a URL. So it's the same deal, and it's pretty cool. So we're gonna use that. And
so before you go on, I got a question for you before you get too far. Back when you were showing that partnership there, they were labeled as an NFT search engine. What is an NFT search engine?
Well, they're going to build a marketplace. So they call it the NFT search engine, but I don't think it's going to be like a Google thing, because they're going to have their own marketplace. That's
so they're okay. So they're a marketplace like some of the other current NFT. And will they exist on Solana? Are they a Solana based? Are they a multi-chain marketplace?
I think it's Ethereum based, but I'm not 100% sure, because the people who did the partnership, they were on top of it. I don't really have a lot of info on it.
And so, I mean, is their model that they have their marketplace, but they're also going to look on chain to discover NFTs so that you could search for an NFT even if it's not available for sale? Because
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. And like I said, it's the marketplace is not up, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think they're gonna release it in a week or two. You didn't hear it from me, but we'll see. I mean, we're gonna test it on our end too. So it's just started. I mean, I guess this, and plus this is our first partnership agreement. So we are sort of learning this as we go along. So yeah. And finally, I don't know if you guys had a chance to. There's this little comic animation that Archetype did with Santi and Moontype and Archetype. I don't know if you saw that animation, but it's about Star Atlas lore, and we are also gonna do a sort of a collaboration with them with their on their next episode. Probably I shouldn't say right now, but it's upcoming. There's just so many projects that we're being all involved. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that, because a lot of times there's communities who are, I guess, ingrained more so than, or I guess guilds, as far as like collaborating is concerned. There's a lot of things going on in the space, and thankfully we have those brews and the Twitter Spaces with Ash and it allows us to, for these platforms. It allows us these platforms to share all of what's happening in the space. For those out there who are thinking that the space is dead and there's no community, rest assured, Star Atlas has one of those strongest communities out there when it comes to games, and with the playable game soon. So
Absolutely, I completely agree. And also, not just that, with all some of the fathers out there who didn't believe in the project and everything, and even like when we released the Unreal Engine 5 game, and there are so many content creators who shared it, and they were like, if a guild can make it, just think about what Star Atlas can achieve. I mean, this hope. I mean, we are fingers crossed. This is going to be a really great project, hopefully, and I think we are really lucky to be the pioneers of this project.
Indeed.
What else we got?
They released a couple cool photos this week. This is one of them. I guess I can cycle through them. This is the showroom at the sunset. Looks good.
Cool.
Yeah, I assume we're just going to get these little drops until June 21st or whenever 4 to 6 is.
So
this was
11
also
days
a really
out.
nice picture.
Mhm.
I think so, yeah. So not the next podcast, the one after. We'll have an update on that.
I wonder how big this area is that the showroom's within, and if you can go out and explore. And it'd be kind of cool if they threw some Easter eggs out there somewhere for just people to randomly find stuff hidden.
Yeah, that would be awesome. They are going to put them graphic novels around the place that you'll be able to find.
Something other than that would be awesome.
Yeah, but they have to like test the concept first. If it works well, then you would want to put a big prize in something that's untested.
Mm-hmm.
So also, yeah, sorry.
No, I was gonna say maybe a little obstacle course race with little checkpoints that you can run through, just so there can be like a mini leaderboard of just people able to run and maybe jump, sprint. I don't know what we're gonna be able to do exactly, but just for keep people entertained, other than just the beauty of the landscape.
Mm-hmm. And this is a new series, I guess, of Michael explaining some of like the basic concepts of the metaverse. Let's give it a go.
Michael in the metaverse.
Predominantly powered by what we term Web 2.0 companies, known as the social web. Web 2 companies emphasize user-generated content, ease of use, participatory culture, and interoperability for end users. While the creator economy totals $104.2 billion globally, the individuals who benefit from Web 2 platforms receive their checks through a centralized intermediary. That intermediary uses your eyeballs and sales of goods through its platforms to make billions from those drawn by user-generated content. And while your attention is captured, so too is your data. Fortunately, on the night of Halloween 2009, a solution began to sprout its wings. A treat for the global community of creators and users, and a trick for those who relied exclusively on closed, centralized systems to maintain their grip on power. That solution was blockchain, evolving into what is today known as Web 3.
So yeah, that was a nice little series. It'd be good to see more of those. And there wasn't much more released Star Atlas this week, unless I missed anything at one of the brews. Or
Yeah, I didn't see too much, but I think one of the things we could probably do next week that we've done in the past is kind of do a quick scan over the past week or two of any good alpha, meaning any comments from Buntius, from Swagner, from Chipto, just anything that might be newsworthy and worth sharing that anyone that's not in Foundation might have missed. But it's probably a good week next week to catch up on some of those items again.
yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Is that it for Star Atlas?
Looks like it.
Cool. We've got some Illuvium stuff, I believe.
Yeah, we have a couple pieces. So they're releasing their Illuvatars, and they have a video for that now. So, yep. That's the same one. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so that was quite a good little update. Will be fun to see what that is. I don't really understand what they are yet, but looking forward to that.
Yeah, and they had another one that was dropped, a little video clip that was dropped within the Discord, and we can kind of talk over it because I'm not sure exactly fully what we're looking at, but it's something about their sharding system. And so this is like the little helper bot that seems to cruise around with your avatar when you're out hunting alluvials. And so I don't know here if it's capturing one or what it's doing to it, but just a little tidbit of video that kind of shows some gameplay. That's different from the battle arena, of course.
Yeah, it's something we haven't seen before. Kind of looks like it's catching him, but it's not like a complete animation. So, yeah, that's cool.
Doesn't look happy about it. Yeah.
And yeah, there was this thread on Twitter where Kieran decided to just roast any Web3 games that were tweeted at him, and to get some funny results. What he replied to Star Atlas is, BRB going to grab some stock assets from the Unreal store so I can mock up something that will make crypto boys believe EVE Online can be made in 12 months.
You know what's funny about this is that you remember all the way back, even to the early beginnings of Illuvium, those guys have never even hesitated to sling shade in every direction, whether it was on Axie, whether it's on Star Atlas. They've had some pretty funny memes and quotes out there. So,
yeah, someone said Illuvium, and he roasted himself. Anyone who's played TFT would laugh at the state of Illuvium right now, just because it's so like packaged and refined. It's been balanced in a major way, like 6 or 7 times now. Yeah, I enjoyed that thread, and it is. I'm not sure I approve of it really, but it got attention. So, what can you say?
Yep, I think that I was just gonna say that it was the method. There's a method to his madness. Sometimes, who knows? He could get emotional, just spew out whatever he wants about any other project. But the marketing of what they do seems to be that it's for a particular reason, and it's not just emotional spewage of his opinions.
Yeah, someone said Mirandus, and he said, once again, I played the original EverQuest. I'm a gamer. Your BS request to get me to play an MMO with lots of graphics is just not happening. So he might not have seen the recent playtest, but yeah, they are kind of stepping it up a bit, but it is quite cartoony.
Hey,
and
as long as
especially in
they're gonna
these realistic environments.
right, I was gonna say, as long as they're ahead of any other gaming platform or company or group with as far as the development of the game, I guess he could talk shit as much as he wants because they
But
actually have something playable that you can earn and that you can start, you know, I guess potentially earning from playing once it's out. So
the look and feel of the game obviously is a big factor for sure. However, I remember back going from, was it EverQuest that came out like right before World of Warcraft? And
Ultima Online might be. Was
what's
it
that?
Ultima Online? I think it was
Ultima
Ultima
Online was
Online.
definitely Ultima Online was the first for sure, but I'm thinking okay, so there was Dark Ages of Camelot, there was LOTR, Lord of the Rings, you had EverQuest, and there was one other one other than Ultima Online, because Ultima Online was still kind of a little bit blocky, and then I think it was EverQuest that came out that was a lot cleaner in look. So much so that when World of Warcraft came out, it actually looked more cartoony than its predecessor. It actually
Right.
had more of that cartoon shaded color look, as where with EverQuest they tried to go a little bit more of realism, more graphic power. And so, but look what World of Warcraft did. So I would think that if they could get the other mechanics right, people are going to be less concerned about the pixel blockiness if they can really get it structured. But as we've seen lately, it's a lot less blocky than they initially had anticipated. And again, I chalk that up to the fact that they're figuring out as they go, and they just didn't have any idea at the time.
Yeah, good points. I believe you have stuff for Axie today, Ray.
yeah, before getting into Axie, just a quick tidbits on Undead Blocks. So yeah, Undead Blocks, they have their inaugural 20,000 pistol speedrun tournament. So we did have Grant, who is the co-founder of the project, and on a previous episode. So that's pretty cool. And we've seen a couple of Romans in our guild playing and sharing in the content channel of our Discord. So it's something, you know, again, these games have things that are going on that are out there. First person zombie shooter, the first of its kind in the Web3 space. So again, you can always check out our interview that we had with Grant.
I want to
YouTube
have
channel.
him back on.
Yeah.
I watched the interview that he did with, I think,
With
Dark Swoop of MMA Gaming. Watched that
Yep.
recently, where he talked a bit more about the tokenomics. And I think what they're doing, and by the way, thanks for rounding him up and getting him on the show, because what they're
For
doing
sure.
at Undead Blocks, I think, is super smart. They're keeping it simple. They're making it accessible. They're not trying to overcomplicate the process, so it's going to appeal to gamers, because it's not a big shift in behavior to be able to start entering into blockchain gaming. I think they're going about it in such a great way, and he's such a great guy. So I think we should definitely get him back on the show for some updates.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him today, and we'll see if he can hop on within maybe not next week. Next week we have a special guest on from the Twitter from Twitch actually. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting.
Cool.
But yeah, as far as like what they're doing with their tokenomics, I think it's innovative, but it almost makes the most sense. And once we have Grant back on, unless you take it upon yourself as an individual, go check it out with their white paper and everything. I think it's one of those games that, in my opinion, will be around for a long while. They have first mover advantage for sure as far as the genre of game. There's multiple first person shooters, but they're doing it. They're doing it right. So kudos to Grant and the whole team there with Undead Blocks. And then also I wanted to mention DeFi Kingdoms. It's been a kind of something that went under the table. Harmony had a bridge hack of 100 million. So this is a layer 1 Harmony 1, and their token 1, and the DeFi Kingdoms was built on top of that. And they recently moved over to their own chain, DeFi Kingdoms chain. That's what it's called, DFK chain, and it's living on as a subnet on Avalanche. So since I guess the Harmony hack, which happened maybe like about a month ago, the depreciation of assets overall terrible. DeFi Kingdoms kind of fell out of interest as far as like price, and that's why a lot of people were playing, because you could make money. But rest assured, the team has enough money, and I've said it many times before, and now everything is operational on the actual DFK chain, which is a subnet on the Avalanche network. So I'm still playing. Duels came out, so now you can duel with your actual heroes. And as far as being lucrative as a project to start playing, that's not why I ever talk about any of these projects. But as far as my own personal interests, and then some of the Roman guilds citizens that might have also had an interest. So that's why I personally talk about it. But yeah, it's a great game, still fun, and it's continually being developed. They have the runway financially, and the team is transparent, doxed. It's just like a great community there as well. So I can't speak highly enough of them outside of prices. So now going into Axie, there's never a dull moment with Axie, and it would be hard to believe that if you just are on the outside, on the sidelines of what was just the focus, which was the SLP price and the economy, with the scholarship craze that just fell out of existence almost. There's been 60+% of decreases in scholars with a lot of guilds, and some of them shut down outright completely because of not being profitable anymore. But again, that doesn't mean that the team or anyone is not going to be able to continue playing the new V3 version of the game, which is free to play, and you would only be able to earn, which is not online yet. You'll be able to earn SLP and rewards, which is just SLP in time. Right now, they just released, I think it was last week, I covered some Axie Infinity news, and they have the first season for the version 3 out and ready, and you can earn access rewards if you place top 10,000. And let me here share my screen, because just today there was a huge article that was released by Phil La, who is the head of the land development for the game itself. As many know, and if you didn't, there's land plots associated with Axie Infinity, and you can buy, sell, trade them with other people. And let me just share my screen. I haven't even gone through this article yet, and let's share this. Yeah, so this is a 43-minute read that he compiled, and it's in reaction to it's titled Axie Infinity Builders in a Bear Market, What the Media Misses, Addressing Misleading Narratives in the Media Around Axie Infinity. So for what it's worth, I would say it's a great read for anyone who is or was ever interested in Axie Infinity. It's a great article to read to catch up with what has been going on. Or if you haven't been at all involved with Axie Infinity, it's a great place to start. And I'm saying this not reading it, but just browsing over it myself as we were live today. It sums up a lot of what different topics of what I guess people would be interested in. So it's very diverse in that way.
And who authored this? Who wrote it?
He's a director of land development. So he's been hired from Pokemon Go. He was with Niantic, and he's been there for many years, and then hopped over to Axie Infinity. He's been with the team for a while now, many months, almost half a year so far. It's been the mid of last year, and
yeah, I'd be interested to. I mean, I definitely want to peruse this article just to kind of get the take, because something that keeps sticking in my head is the conversation that we had with our guest that's coming on next week, where he was mentioning that, there are still some really big players, Binance included, and then I forget who the other big investor is, that are still very bullish on Axie to this day. And then that got me thinking, like, okay, so if there are a number of big companies that are still bullish on the project, what are their considerations? What keeps them so bullish still at this point? Because on the outside looking in, someone who is upside down a fair amount of money in Axie, kind of see the project from how my participation would be in it, as kind of like they had their day and they're done. But there's still people that have a lot of belief in it. I mean, you've obviously been a part of the community since the early days, so you have a fair amount of loyalty to it, which I think is great. But I don't have that same loyalty, and I look at it as, I was in, didn't do so well, I'm out. The models change. Will they ever get that back? Can they rebuild? Can they have a comeback? I don't know, don't see it, kind of thing. But I'm really curious to look through the lens of those that, from the landscape of investment, still look at Axie and say, no, we see a future in it. So I'm really curious to learn more about why they have that perspective.
Yeah. like I said, it would be almost an hour's worth of information to go through, and maybe we can have a sit down with Enjoy and Bayonar, and even with Dark Soup from MMA. Maybe I said maybe on our podcast, but MMA also just launched their own YouTube channel with covering of news and games that they're
Yeah.
as a guild are involved in financially and just as far as leisure purposes. So
By the way,
yeah, that
but I did ping Dark Swoop about this because a couple of weeks ago I was saying, I wanted to have an open conversation, almost even like a panel. And of course, the Axie team and folks would be very obviously biased towards that. But the panel I'd like to have is as non-biased as you can get, but also some people that have a vested interest. And the conversation is this. Okay, we know what the old scholar model looked like, I think at its peak, Dark Swoop was probably managing something like 1,000 Axie scholars. I don't know how that compares across the board with lots of others, but it's considerable enough to where you would have a picture of the landscape and how things evolved and how things change. And that's kind of what I mentioned to in the conversation I'd like to have. And also hear from them, like what they about it, what we think we learned as an industry from it, and what is the next iteration that will support developing countries where gameplay can be a win-win for both the people that own assets and those that they want to run as scholars. And I think scholar is a weird name. I don't even know how it became to that name, but to have people utilize your assets in a revenue share model. And of course, we know that Peg Axie kind of took that and leveled up certain aspects of it, not necessarily similar in gameplay, but they leveled up the relationship between scholars. Like, for example, I didn't have to go through and pay each of the scholars. It was already done at the point of renting it to them. So it'd be great to have a number of people on where we talk about like that. Where is the whole model of scholars come from? What was good about it? What do we think the future holds in that space?
Yeah, I think a panel like that, just talking about Axie, would be great, just for I guess our own educational purposes, for
Absolutely.
as previous or current investors. But yeah, I have been in the space for a long while, as far starting out with Axie Infinity, and by far, just like with anything else, there needs to be an understanding of where not just the project was at its height in what I would say were many people's opinions, but um, till this day, they are, as far as numbers are concerned, really blowing out even OpenSea and Magic Eden when it comes to daily active users. And the big discrepancy here when it comes to just anything number related with daily active users or just sales and transactions are just that because Ronin chain exists with um, it's its own entity as a chain that has all these transactions going on, and it's not being incorporated and updated as far as these platforms that are mainly or widespread. They're used for keeping up with numbers as far as daily active users when it comes to games. So like blockchain game is a website, right? .com, and you can see all games, but their information might not be up to date, where it wouldn't place Axie Infinity first up on the list when it would be. And I would like to share this here. This is an updated or an ongoing update doc for it's a Google Doc that's shared periodically, but it's available publicly. And here we are on the far right hand side, 7.4 as of the 4th of this month. There's an update on the axle, and then on this far left hand side you can see all the information relevant to the numbers across the screen, and daily active users or Axie holders, and all of the numbers are pretty much trending upwards or relatively the same, although we went down from daily active users to 500,000. It's up as and it's been holding as far as the transition of players that were living and playing V2, which is the old version of the game, which is being sunsetted in September at the AxieCon Barcelona event, which there's going to be probably a whole plethora of information coming out in releases. But yeah, there's just a lot going on as far as transitions outside of just the initial, I mean, outside of the hack and then the ongoing bad SLP economy conversations and criticisms that are happening on Twitter. But yeah, this is a good place to look at for actual numbers when it comes to anything Axie related. Not to get too deep into the weeds, but just to move on with the updates here, there's the Axie Infinity Land Working Group. So the LWG was something that was created and headed by a community member with the support of the team for understanding how the plans that Sky Mavis has to evolve land. So here we have some bullet points here: educating Sky Mavis on the history of land play, as perceived by long-term landowners. So there's a whole bunch of landowners who are still interested in wanting to help in any way they can, just like we see in other projects and their community members. And it's a whole document that could be found. And if you have land, you can participate in a survey to give feedback, because it's open to the whole public, but it's something that should be checked out and looked through. And this might not appeal or mean anything to you per se if you're out there, because you might not have land, right? And it might not mean anything. But there's a lot of different, I guess, limbs of this Axie Infinity Sky Mavis game that are being focused on, just like with Star Atlas and even Gala Games. They have all these other things going on, and it's not to say that it's all it's not to say that it's all not going to be focused on and developed, but over time there'll be a lot.
Can you go back to that
look forward
spreadsheet
to.
real quick? Yeah,
Oh,
that
sure.
one. So you got daily active users, in-game battlers. So they're basically looking at the end of March to the beginning of July. So that's roughly a 3-month, so a 1/4 window is what you're looking at. So April, May, June. From 1.4 million, but that's daily active in-game battlers. So that's gone down substantially. That's from 1.4 million to 3.
Yeah. To ultimately 350 plus thousand. Yeah, but that's not even it. It was even higher than that back in January of last year. So we have 2 million. So yeah, so the numbers have, this is undeniable that all numbers have gone down, specifically with Axie Infinity and its daily active users, just because of the SLP debacle and the economy of how people weren't able to continue living just playing and farming, SLP, which I don't know whoever thought that was going to be sustainable. And then we see Pegaxi taking after the model. Also, Thane Arena. We see just a lot of games that was riding the coattails of SLP and scholarship models fall and had the same fate. So for what it's worth, having this amount of daily active in-game battlers, which it is higher since the reporting of this, is by far more than any other game in the Web3 space. And I find it interesting. There was a tweet, we'll get back to that, but there was a tweet by a community member that goes by the name of Cloud White, or Justin Taylor is a crypto Twitter's, I don't know who he is, but he just wrote out some daily active users for each of the games that are currently out there. So we have Sandbox, Decentraland, Fortnite from both traditional and Web3 space, and then our hardcore Cloud White community member for Axie Infinity, day one. So he was just mentioned Axie Infinity. Long story short, people are giving out numbers of the daily active users looking like 40K from Dapper Radar. Dapper Radar. And like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of misinformation as far as numbers not being updated. And so G-Host basically jumps in and he's at church, but he gives the doc and the link to the doc that we were just looking at, the growth data. And Axie Infinity is, for monthly on-chain users, is 580K compared to OpenSea and Magic Eden, which wasn't mentioned because these are games that the initial tweet was talking about. But as far as the on-chain users outside of the game, daily active users, is in the Web3 space is over 500,000. And then that's comparing to the actual marketplaces that everyone seems to think of and know of to trade and transact and to sell or buy NFTs. And like I said, it is a marketplace on the Ronin network where you can buy, sell, trade Axie assets, the items, and also swap in between Ethereum, AXS, Ronin, and Small Love Potion.
But when they say on-chain users, is that to suggest the number of people that have played? And the reason I asked that is, like on that graph that you had, the first thing that I was looking at there was Axie holders, and then I saw that dropped basically 10% in that quarter. But then I started thinking about that. That's not really a number that means anything, and the reason it doesn't is because I'm still an Axie holder. Well, like, what am I going to do with them? They're commemorative to me now. So it's like one of those.
Yeah.
I hold crypto kitties too, but I haven't touched any
Right.
in forever. So I don't know that holding. I think it's more of like, what is the activity? So I wasn't sure what those numbers represented on that tweet versus the marketplace. Was that just people that have actually actively done something? On-chain users, or like what qualified as an on-chain user? Did they sell something? Did they buy something? Did they play with them?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So this is daily active users of in-game is different than monthly or daily on-chain users of the chain itself, which is
Got
the Ronin chain. And on Ronin chain, for every block, there's transactions, and that could vary from a trade, a buy, a sell, a swap, a breed, a swap between a currency, not just between players. So there's just a lot of activity, more so than on OpenSea and Magic Eden. And sure, it's a game, but so there's all these things that could be picked out, and I'm not here just maxing this information. I'm just bringing it to the public for if they didn't know and they might want to check it out themselves to maybe dig deeper than what we're going to do here on this particular episode. But yeah, these are just all the numbers that are just continually updated on this document. And on the left-hand side, you can see those numbers for what it's worth. And yeah, I say all this because the information is not accurate across a lot of these platforms, which keeps kind of Axie, below the surface of what's going on, but all the while still hustling, bustling, and building out what they intend to with the help of the community. So, and that leads me into the development update for July. Again, another document you can just sift through to check out and keep up to date with what's going on within the month. And yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get too much into here. I did talk a lot about what was going on last episode. So if you're interested in Axie,
well, maybe like what is the thing you're most excited about, like for that on this document, or like whatever is like on the horizon for Axie?
Okay, so land is a big thing that's being talked about. We have the land working group, and a lot of community members and landowners are taking part in helping shape around what was already talked about as far as what land will look like. And we have some stills photos here of what land would actually look like as far as what you'd be able to do. So we have idle combat. And yeah, so I like this particular part where a major focus of some sprints over the next recent weeks is the idle combat system. So idle combat will provide players with a way to sell crafted items to NPCs, non-player characters. These NPCs loaded with these items will go out into the world to battle enemies in combat. The system will allow players to compete with each other on a leaderboard. So the player versus environment, adventure mode essentially, battle will also serve as a basis for more complex battle systems in the future. And this is outside of the runes and charms that haven't gone online yet as far as crafting is concerned. So right now you can craft runes and charms, but it's not incorporated with SLP, which is going to be a huge factor. And we have to remember how all of these different types of things, once they go online, will utilize Small Love Potion in a way that's going to have it burned and used and never come back, as far as when it comes to just playing the game all around. And then outside of that, we have those. So land is a big thing that I've been waiting for a long while, and it's good to see that there's more information you shared about it. Right, we have some stills. You're gonna have to. You won't need to get off of the platform or the game. You'll be able to have friends, right? So outside of the idle combat system, the team has also been building social functions such as friends and chat infrastructure, so that players will be able to communicate with others. And you can see we've come up with some fun ways to reward players for engaging socially in the game. These benefits will reveal themselves with more play. So again, a lot of rough draft, still photos, still nothing visuals. No visuals yet. We do have a land play video that did come out. I showed it, I guess, a couple episodes back. But again, as the team develops and a lot of information is being shared, it's just a panel like you were saying, Jess, and coverage of just specific Axie information would go a long way to I guess have it all compiled in one place to get people, I guess, understanding where Axie is in their development process. And then yeah, and then the builders program, last but not least, I did share last week, there's 12 games that were yeah, we are thrilled to partner with 12 inaugural project teams and supporting many other games initiatives based on Axie Infinity. And this as well will incorporate the tokens. There's a certain structure of how these games are brought on to be
So are
held.
these games within the existing Axie ecosystem, or are these games that are coming on Ronin chain that are separate?
Yeah,
from
these will live on these will live on Ronin as games.
Okay.
And there's 12 different ones, and each from a different genre, and utilizing or having to utilize the tokens that are AXS, SLP, and then Ronin.
Cool.
And yeah, again, this is outside just the actual arena play that you can take part in right now for iOS and Android. And the rewards are coming online soon. And by far, you know, with the numbers that we know of with Axie, outside of just those websites that aren't really up to date with what's going on, I just see good things in the future.
So you've got land. So at some point you'll be able to show us some live land gameplay.
Absolutely, yeah. And land staking went live as well for all those who didn't know. And you can stake your land and earn rewards. And that's a whole other thing to get into. So it's just like a multifaceted type of development progress report that needs to take place, more in depth than just me doing a monthly or weekly update, which is still good nonetheless. But last but not least, there's also a leaderboard. So the referral program went live, and there's people who can make money off of the code that's used whenever you put in that code for the person. Whether you know them or not, you can use a code, and then those people get rewarded. And this is the leaderboard. So we have rewards in total since the referral program went live. I think it was just a month and a half ago, not even. And so since
Nearly
from
10 ETH,
1,200, 12,706 marketplace transactions, we have the leaderboards, and I recognize a lot of names. Congratulations to everyone. A lot of content creators, or it's only been content creators who were able to apply. Anyone can, but they're leaning more towards people who are producing and giving back value to the community to then be rewarded as far as content creation, entertainment, or educational. So yeah, it's good to see all these things kind of moving along and just progressing, and the information now being given to us as far as updates, photos, some videos. Like, this is what everyone always wanted and will continue to want from any one of these projects that we're talking about here. So it's important that these teams come around and start doing that or continuing doing that. So
Cool.
yeah, that's it for me on the Axie side of things, and I'll hang up my hat.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
For sure.
What do we got, Fancy?
So yeah, that actually Lumina did share with me a couple more Star Atlas things that's quite relevant to the episode, so we could
cool
jump back to that before we finish.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's basically like a comparison of all the different types of ships. There's a couple of them. It's a clean graphic. And yeah. Any thoughts, Lumina? Your mic is muted.
Yeah, again, this is one of the projects that I totally forgot about. Actually, if people visit our Twitter space, Guild Coexist, we did a poster series called Back to the Future of Star Atlas, which is really fun. We're still doing it, but not a lot of people know this, but I actually shared it with Fancy. What I did with the weapon hard points and giving points to firepower missile thing, we actually did a very similar thing back in January, in December actually. But at that time, we didn't really have a lot of info. Even still today, we don't. But at that time, we didn't really continue the project. We kind of keep it in our own and on the Discord. We didn't release it to the public because we were like, oh, this is a very secretive project, which it wasn't. I mean, we're kind of theory crafting and whatnot. But now, since APA did it, and we would like to do something sort of a comparison poster series. So we're going to start this series probably tomorrow. And each day we're going to compare different ships if they're capital, being capital, large, legendary, medium, small, so on and so forth, according to their size, firepower, maneuvering capabilities. And I think there's people are also mistaken, and this is sort of the same thing related to with my example of being a tank and a melee range and a support. So we're going to also compare them as being, if it's like a defense ship or an offense ship. So that type of comparison of sort of, a poster series is just coming out.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fun just to be able to go through these on podcasts if you're a streamer or a content creator for Star Atlas. It's things like this that really engage the imagination when it comes to these types of games, and then up until the game is actually playable. So we'll get more accurate information that could be shared with the public.
Yep, I agree.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing it.
Anything else there, Fancy yet?
No, I think we're ready to end.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, Lumina, man, we appreciate you being on. It's always good to have you here with us for sure. And
Thank you.
yeah, we're excited to see things grow with the ONI magazine that you guys are putting together to help keep everyone up to date on what's happening within the ONI faction. Yeah, and so we had some stuff here to share with the Star Atlas, but we mostly covered news just around the industry because, again, it's kind of like I personally like looking at the big picture of what's being developed, and whether that's newsworthy content about new developers in the space, about market sentiment, what's going to actually help be the best onboarding process by making it really easy for legacy gamers to come on board, because it's about gameplay and less about all of the different factors that make it crypto the biggest hurdle, getting beyond that. So anyone that has thoughts and ideas that you'd like for us to be able to cover on future shows, by all means, share that with us. We love getting your feedback. And one of the things I like most personally about when we do these shows is just how many comments we actually get from you guys sharing your thoughts and ideas. And even when we're all here theory crafting together. So when we don't know something, it's good to have people saying, hey, I happen to know this, and be able to share that for everyone else. So much appreciated. Any final words from you, Ray?
Yeah, if anyone of you out there watching, or even on the stream today, know of anyone who wants to come up and be a guest to talk about a specific topic, yeah, you're more than welcome to. The floor is open, and we can always reach out to one of us in our Discord channels, DMs. You can slide into the DMs. But again, thank you, Lumina. If you want, you can tell us where we can find you, your socials, and then if you want, you can also give a little message in Turkish. I know there's a lot of followers who don't know Turkish. I mean English. Turkish followers who don't speak English. So by all means. But thanks again to everyone watching and supporting. You can follow us at gorome.io or romeguild.com and continue the conversation up in our Discord. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ray. And Ray Fancy just shared it. My Twitter space is Crypto Lumina, and it's a guild Coexist. And also, as you guys know by now, Rome has a special place in my heart. But I'm gonna save you from the debate of which outro you guys are gonna play. So I have a little surprise for you, but don't judge me, all right?
Okay.
So here it is. Atlas Miner, you were born. Push the block in search of all. Now it's time that you were gone. So farewell, Atlas Miner.
Yes.
Farewell, Mud and Oni too. Was the sector the same to you? The pirate busters coming through. Farewell, Atlas Miner. Have a good day, guys. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Really appreciate this.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Good stuff, man. Yes.
Beautiful
It's a catchy tune, isn't it?
I'll try.
We could do a live show one day, and we'll all play an instrument, and we'll just start singing the song. We'll take a different
Sounds
line.
good. Hey, we might have a concert in Star Atlas Metaverse.
There you
That's
go. Thanks so much.
Awesome, everyone. We appreciate
Thanks,
you
guys.
joining us here. Smash all the buttons, do all the things. You know the places to find us. GoRome.io, RomeGuild.com. Yeah, all the places, man. And with that, we're going to see you guys here, same channel, same time next week, every Sunday. We've been doing this now. This was episode 50, but now we're well over a year of doing this because we had a couple prior to the rebranding. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here this time next week. Cheers.
Adios.
Atlas Miner, you were born. Push the block, in search of war. Now it's time, that you are gone. So farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, Mud and Oni too. Who's the sector, same to you. The pirate bastards ran him through. So farewell, Atlas Miner. They promised you a diamond mine, but I'll be damned, it's hard to find. I hope there's justice for their crimes. And farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, friend, don't take it hard. Getting killed ain't all that bad. They'll treat you well in the repair yard. So farewell, Atlas Miner.